probably wondering, who is this retro healthcare professional? I'll tell you who's that. This is Albert Bravo, my grandpa. Yeah. And his glorious days as a cardiologist. Apart from being a gifted cardiologist, my grandpa was also lucky enough to survive not one, but 2 heart attacks. I still remember him during those days, meticulously measuring his blood pressure every morning and going his ECG recordings with great precision. But the perimeters would always be in the normal range, and he would still experience severe shortness of breath, nevertheless. Later on, it was clear that my grandpa had a diastolic heart failure. This condition could be only diagnosed with a left ventricular and diastolic pressure catheterization, which is in essence type of heart surgery. It nowadays costs about $5,000. Surprisingly, and I would say luckily, nowadays the heart failure that is diagnosed early enough, given the contemporary medication, is a chronic condition as bad as elevated blood pressure that most of us over the age of 35 already have without even knowing it, right? Nevertheless, nowadays, there are 6 million heart failure patients only in the US, while 1 million are readmitted to the hospitals, continuously readmitted within less than 30 days, with both discharge processes and follow-up monitoring. On top of that, the US is producing 600,000 heart attack survivors, which are in great danger to become the next heart failure patients, because according to a clinical trial conducted on 25,000 patients in the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands, every 4th heart attack survivor will develop heart failure in less than 4 years. Nowadays, heart failure is about 2% of the whole healthcare budget in the US, and believe it or not, but heart failure is responsible for more hospitalizations than all forms of cancer combined. To prevent it from happening, we at Zencorlabs have developed the whistle. The whistle is rechargeable. It has on and off button, red indication lights, and the most important thing, the mouthpiece to perform this maneuver that Antonio was talking about, the Valsalva Maneuver. Let me show you how it works. The maneuver is so intuitive that it could even be performed and tested in the noisy venues of Medica 2018. Once you locate your index finger on the camera and flashlight, we start measuring your pulse wave. And then, after 20 seconds, we ask you to perform the Valsalva Maneuver, which means blowing into the whistle to 40 millimeter mercury units of pressure for 20 seconds. What happens then is the pressure we develop in the whistle is transmitted to the mobile via BLE, and we are able to monitor the pressure that we develop on this 3rd graph in the app, which is basically visual feedback that we close. But the most important thing to understand about the application of Valsalva Maneuver, which is a controlled Valsalva Maneuver, because we control the pressure, and that's what makes the results reproducible each time we measure. So the most important thing to understand is the fact that when we apply pressure on our chest, it forces the heart to change this pulse wave measured from the tip of our finger, and relying on this controlled change, we are able to diagnose heart failure with high fidelity as much as that catheter that my grandpa couldn't have. So as you see here, those curves are affected in 4 phases by the Valsalva Maneuver. It's the heart rate curve and the pulse pressure, which is a derivative of blood pressure. When a healthy patient is blowing the whistle, you will have those curves creating a shape of a an open eye like you see right here. And we call this eye the Zencoreye, of course. Yeah. This eye we use as our primary feature to estimate the left ventricular and diastolic pressure. But once a patient that was diagnosed with heart failure would perform the maneuver, he would have his Zencoreye slowly flattening down and closing as the disease progresses. But just imagine, if each and every healthcare professional in the world could early diagnose heart failure with the whistle, he would have much better objective visibility on the efficacy of his medical treatment than the current state of the art, when a cardiologist has to rely on subjective feedback from his patients about the efficacy of the treatment. Our business model is very simple. All we do is selling filters, disposables. That's all we do. We sell some whistles, not many, because there are about 6,000 treatment utilities in the US, and we give the app for free. But our secret is that this filter is a disposable we order from China, and it already has FDA and CE mark approval. The only thing that belongs to us is that little QR code that every healthcare professional has to scan with our QR scanner in our app in order to get granted with 10 minutes of heart failure testing. And that's what secures our income and turns this device into a disposable, the filter. So we are focused around two groups. The first one is heart attack survivors, which is a high risk factor group. And the second is chronic heart failure patients. So imagine if a heart attack survivor would visit the healthcare provider four times per month, and the chronic heart failure patient would visit him 2 times per month. Zencorlabs would be able to converge to $30,000 from this particular healthcare providers per year. I didn't tell you, but we are working with sales representatives in the US, and they deploy our service. So imagine that our sales representative will be able to converge to 50 doctors per year. Zencorlabs will be able to produce $1.5 million of revenue per year from a single sales representative, and taking into account his yearly salary, which is $150,000 per year. I'm sorry, we are overpaying him, yeah? Which is, ladies and gentlemen, 10 times return on investment for Zencorlabs. So during those 3 months at G4A, the most important thing, the lesson that we learned, is how do we walk from being a tech company, what we are at the moment, to a company based on revenues, and to eventually a company that actually builds an asset on the top of its technology, an asset that we will be able to change the way heart failure therapeutics and heart failure diagnostics will look like in the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Albert Bravo, and this is my co-founder, Larry Rotter. Together we're going to make sure that no whistleblower will ever have to compromise on his or her quality of life due to misdetected and untreated heart failure. Come to our booth later on. We have filters for all of you.